All right, folks, if you want to put your cell phones on vibrate and have a seat, we're going to get going. Welcome, everybody, to the 2 o'clock panel. If you are looking at the program, I want to make sure you know that this is not marijuana cultivation. This is actually designing and marketing cannabis-infused products. So hopefully you are the right place. I am your host for the panel and also host of the Shaping Fire podcast, Shango. If you enjoy listening to experts at the top of the cannabis field talking about their discipline, I encourage you to pick up a postcard near the door and take a listen to my show. I also want to invite you all to a party tonight that is being thrown by Dope Magazine. They have reserved the roof at the Clarendon Hotel and are having a big old throwdown, so everyone is invited. Our panel today will go through we'll talk for about 40 minutes, and then there'll be some time at the end for questions. So if you think of a question during the panel, make sure you write it down so that you don't forget. And also, if you want to show this panel to friends, partners, and loved ones, you can feel free to find the recording of this panel on my YouTube channel at Shango Los. So first, let's welcome our guests from the far side. We've got Trista Ocal from Empower Oil. In the middle is Nancy Whiteman from Wana Brands. And on right next to me, we've got Jane Fix from Monarch Dispensary. So welcome to all of you. So these are merely highlights of each speaker's bio. They are all very accomplished professionals, but just to give you an idea of who we have with us today, Trista, whoa, you got a live one there. Trista on the far end is founder of Empower Body Care, named one of the country's top 10 cannabis companies by High Times Magazine. Empowered Body Care provides both hemp and cannabis-infused healing topical products and has won an array of local and national product awards. In the middle, Nancy is co-founder and co-owner of Wana Brands, which produces Wana edibles, Wana extracts, and Wana medicinals. Wana Brands is Colorado's #1 edibles producer by revenue and now has expanded into Oregon, Nevada, and soon Illinois. And Nancy is responsible for the partnerships and licensing agreements domestically and internationally. And she's got an MBA from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst and is on the board of the Cannabis Business Alliance. Jane Fix is head of patient services for Monarch Wellness Center right here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Monarch is the provider of Kiva products throughout the state, and Jane has extraordinary experience with understanding patient needs and reducing suffering using cannabis edibles. So I'm very happy to have such an experienced panel. How we're going to do this is I've got a series of questions. We're going to start at one end and then the other, and then hopefully elicit a little bit of conversation throughout. So let's get going. So let's start with you here, Jane. And then we'll work our way down. Oh, I guess I also want to point out that the topic is kind of general with designing and marketing of cannabis-infused products. So you'll notice a little bit of the difference in the answers because Jane and Nancy are both, while they both are familiar with topicals, their expertise is in edibles, and Trista on the end is more about topicals. So we're gonna get a little creative on how we work the questions, but you'll understand and play along. So Jane. Patients require a wide range of doses, some as little as 2.5 milligrams and others, up to and over 100 milligrams of THC, even more before considering the CBD component. So, from the headspace of a product designer, when designing a limited range of products that are going to be going to market for public sale, what do you think are the best default setting dosages to bring to market for patients? You want to go closer.
Thank you, Shango. It's an interesting question. Our product started at a 5 milligram dose, and our highest dosage is 180 milligram chocolate bar. And I often say to people, if they come in and say, "Oh, the chocolate bar just didn't do it for me," I say 180 milligram chocolate bar should have an effect on an elephant. So we have bigger problems than the milligrams that do for your digestive system, whatever. But for me, unless the patient is 104, and I do have a 104-year-old patient, I generally start at 5 milligrams. Sometimes I'd go as low as 2.5. Sometimes I medicate the patient at night for 10 days. Sometimes I medicate the patient at night for 10 days, especially if they're in their 80s and never had cannabis before, and then that makes the transition to the day a lot easier. They're not lightheaded, they're not dizzy, their body's kind of adjusted to it. What am I not answering with it?
So to reorient you, the question is, when designing products for the market specifically, because patients need such a wide range, how do you know what milligrams to bring to the market that's going to be effective for the most amount of people?
So, you know, we have two options with the Kiva confections. They have a 5 milligram option here, and down the road, potentially a 2.5 milligram option. So those are for the newbies, the people coming in as a recreational user, potentially that they've used before. And then you have your candy bars that you can divide up into what you know is your sweet spot. So me, for example, when I get my Kiva bar home, it's in 45 milligram squares, and I cut those squares into thirds because 15 milligrams is my sweet spot. So I have it ready to roll, and I can just reach in my little bag and get what I need.
So it sounds like your answer is on subdividable milligrams in whatever the product is. Right on, great. Yes.
Okay, well, this is sort of an interesting question. There's sort of a two-parter embedded in this. One is the dosage of the individual delineated product. And in Colorado, we are mandated by law on the adult use side of the market to have a maximum of 100 milligram products on the rec side, and they have to be delineated into no more than 10 milligram units. So that part of it is set in stone. Medical has more flexibility. Now, we have chosen to have a range of dosages within our individual products, and we have a line of gummies and hard lozenges and caramels and other confectionery products. We have an option. The real answer, Shango, is that nobody really truly knows what is the most effective dose, because there's so many variables to that. There's individual metabolism, there's the condition that's being treated, there's how the body processes edibles. So our philosophy is to provide people with a range of options so that they can experiment and see what works for them. So we currently have products that are delineated into 5, 10, and 20 milligram dosages. And we're about to come out with a microdose of 2.5. So I think our basic philosophy and what we help promote in the industry is start low and go slow. Particularly for people who are new to cannabis and new to edibles. The last thing in the world that we want is somebody to have an uncomfortable experience with edibles. And so we spend a lot of time out in the field talking with bud tenders about edible metabolism, how people experience them, and how they should be working with their patients and their customers. And because Colorado is an adult use state, we're particularly sensitive to tourists and newbies who really haven't tried edibles before, and always really encouraging people to start low and get used to what their body can tolerate before downing 180 milligram chocolate bar. So that's kind of our philosophy on it.
You want to weigh in?
Sure, yeah. So the beauty of topicals is that they are non-psychoactive. So for the since 2005, I've been working on different formulations and seeing what worked best. I don't like to go under 0.5% by volume per unit for topicals in either CBD or THCA, because that seems to be the sweet spot and the most effective dosage. That said, I would also like to weigh in on the edibles, because I love the starting at 2.5 to 5 and going from there. I think it's right there.
It's interesting because when it comes to edibles, there seems to be a lot of need for variety up to around 25 milligrams. People's sweet spot, they might be at 2.5 and it might be at 15, and sometimes it's different depending on who they're purchasing from. So there's a lot of difference in need up to 25. But if somebody needs above 25 milligrams, chances are likely that they are needing to take so much THC to deal with, the chronic pain or whatever their issue is, that they're probably gaining tolerance so fast that they're going to really need to hit it hard. And so these are the people who take, a 100 milligram bar and break it in half and have half now and half later. And so as far as a product designer goes, it sounds like having a lot of variety at the low end and then going slow and, what did you say? That was great.
Start low and go slow.
Yeah, there you go, there you go. So now we're going to start on the other side. So this one's for you, Trista. So as far as infused topicals go, cannabis topicals have become very popular for pain relief, but there's a lot of debate with product designers about what the best carrier oils are, because some are seeking to be on top of the derma for something like psoriasis and eczema, whereas others are selling for pain relief, and so you have to break through the derma. So I'd like to hear from you what your thoughts are on carrier oils for both of those applications, and then we'll come this direction.
Great. So I personally like to use jojoba oil, organic jojoba oil, because it's the most like our own skin sebum or skin oil. So it absorbs faster and better than any other oil. However, you cannot infuse into jojoba. So you have to choose a different carrier oil to infuse into. Lots of people like to use coconut oil, grapeseed oil. I've heard avocado oil, but personally my favorite is grapeseed because it's light and jojoba.
Nancy, I don't know if you all are doing topicals, but do you want to weigh in on them?
We are not doing topicals, and I have nothing of value to add to this.
We have kind of a conundrum in the store. People come in, and one of the questions they always ask about the topicals is there a scent to it? Is there a cannabis odor to this topical? And I always try to stop them and say, you're asking the worst person you can choose, because we're infused with cannabis scent all day, so nothing really smells cannabis to us. But, I try to objectively, most of the cannabis oils, the odor dissipates within 10 minutes, and it's not toxic to the room if you apply it and go back to work after lunch.
And I guess for a lot of patients, noticeability is a big deal. So, especially if you're trying to get relief while you're at work.
Yeah, I have a little extra to add, but I like to use isolates, actually, because they are odorless for the most part, and users who are consumers who use our products are not normally. Oh, define isolates. Okay, so an isolate is a crystalline powder form of the THCA or CBD. I like to use those because they don't smell, like I said. But that said, most of the people who use topicals really don't use cannabis in any other form, we found. At least not at first. We find
It's a gateway.
I like to say ambassador product, but yes, indeed.
And on the idea of isolate, so what's happening is she's using the CBD or THCA that's been molecularly separated from the rest of the whole plant, and so what you're not getting is the terpene profile, which is the aromatherapy of the plant, right? And so she knows specifically that she either wants to use THCA and or CBD in her product. So if you just peel off the terpenes, in this setting, it doesn't. You get to use the positive aspects she's going with, but without the smell that lets your coworkers know.
Right, and part of that's because the essential oils that I use in my products also have terpene profiles that are beneficial for pain, inflammation, and skin trauma. So it's combining that and finding the sweet spot and synergy in the formulation that really makes a difference.
Great. So, did you have something to say?
Well, I have a question for Trista. So, do you make a 50-50 topical CBD?
I do.
And what specifically do you recommend them for?
Pain, inflammation, and skin trauma. Okay. But I worked for a really long time on the formulation to make it work for everything from psoriasis to arthritis.
So this next question will start with you, Nancy. So we're in a medical state, so we're going to I'm going to ask the question in a way that we're going to be speaking about patients, right? But I know that you work in a lot of rec markets, so feel free to speak to that as well. But one of the I see lots of infused product manufacturers using artificial ingredients in their products. Colors. Sometimes they're using sugar, and when we're talking about patients, that's not necessarily going to be best for somebody with a compromised immune system. So, in your experience, how important is it to avoid artificial colors and flavorings and sugar using these inputs when making commercially available edibles for the greater market? I mean, we all know that lots of people are getting authorization and using medical products for life enjoyment as well. But because we are here in Arizona, we're thinking primarily in a medical way. So please.
It's an interesting question, and I will answer it in a couple of different ways. The first is that there's actually objective data that you can look at, and for those of you who are going to be here tomorrow, Liz Trujera from BDS Analytics is going to be speaking. There have been, so I'm from Colorado, and worse than Colorado, I'm from Boulder, the epicenter of all things politically correct and all natural. So if there was ever a place in the universe where there's going to be people pushing back on artificial color and flavors and all the rest of that, it would be Boulder, Colorado. And I have to tell you that objectively speaking, and this was true before adult use, it doesn't matter that much to people, truthfully. People will say it matters, but when it comes to what people actually purchase, we all know that we're not consistent, right? There are plenty of products out there that have artificial color or flavors, and certainly almost every popular edible product in Colorado has sugar, mine included, and they all do just fine. BDS does track sugar-free products. It's barely a blip on the screen of what is sold. So, you guys can draw your own conclusions about what I'm saying. Certainly, in a perfect world, if you have a compromised immune system or medical issues, in a perfect world, it's probably best to avoid all of those things. On the other hand, if you're eating a gummy that's this big, I don't know that it's a huge issue, personally.
And for some patients, it's the only way they can have it be palatable that they can even get it down.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I do a thing with the patients when I'm consulting them, and I ask them what kind of dietary restrictions they put themselves on, and then I just follow their lead. There's tinctures, there's cannabis honey, there's all kinds of edibles that you can give patients that are, staying away from sugar. But I kind of concur with her, even though, I'm the biggest proponent of non-GMO organic eating, especially for anyone with IBS, colitis, things like that. But my little 15 milligrams of dark cannabis chocolate every night makes me so happy. I couldn't give it.
Gosh, so should I translate that into?
Sure. Like using any artificial ingredients.
Synthetic preservatives and things like
exactly.
that? Okay, so I stay away from synthetics at all costs. So, just for the skin, I don't see a need to put EDTA and dimethicone in my products. I stay away from parabens and all that, but that's skincare. Do I eat gummies? Absolutely.
Let me, since you're all business people, since you're here, I'm going to contextualize this a little bit more from a business point of view, even though that wasn't exactly the question, I recognize. But when you step back and look at the edibles market right now, it's not a highly segmented market. And what I mean by that is, I have people who come to me with some regularity, almost whispering, saying, I have the most incredible recipe. and I am always very polite, and I say, unless you want to sign an NDA with me, don't even tell it to me. But they always want to tell it to me anyway, and they do. And it's always something incredibly niche-y, like it's organa quinoas with, blah, blah, blah. And what I really want to say to them gently is, in the big world, you might have a niche with that, right? In the cannabis world, you're going to go out of business in about a month, right? Because the industry just isn't segmented enough at this point of time, and the market isn't large enough for us to have all these different little niches. So we all want to do good in the world, but right now, doing good in the world means that you have to stay afloat as a business, right? So you have to take that reality into account, before you come out with products that are so super niche-y that there just isn't enough of a market to support them. So that's kind of the business reality, from my perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I was down in California speaking, and somebody gave me a sample, which ended up being the best edible I've ever had. And it said on the front, Majoun. And so it was a Persian-style jelly, and it was delicious. Probably had more to do with the fact that it was a Persian-style jelly than it was a cannabis edible. But the packaging, talk about a niche of a niche market. First of all, you have to know what Majoun is, and then you have to be wanting to get your cannabis out of a jelly. But God, it was so delicious. So Jane, one of the challenges with marketing topicals is that patients want to use it sparingly to save money. And yet the whole thing with topicals is that they need to be used regularly throughout the day. So, you work a lot with patients. What are any secrets that you can share about encouraging patient compliance to use the topical when they're at the same time trying to save money by not using the topical?
So I have some strange analogies I use with patients, and when they come in for the first time, I tell them they're like a car with no oil in the tank, and the oil in the tank needs to be CBD. So I tell them that CBD does not really work if you're deficient in it for the first 30 days. So you need to give it at least 30 days. And I compare it, I say, this is your marijuana multivitamin, okay? So you're gonna take this every day like you take your vitamin E. You don't know if your vitamin E is working, but you know intrinsically that you need to take the pill. So I get them on that, and then I start talking about the CBD topicals for neuropathy, and I say to them, this is best used when your pores are open after a shower, or you can wrap your feet in a hot towel, have them dry, put the topical on. Don't expect results for 3 to 5 days. Start using this, use it at night before you go to sleep, use it in the morning. If you want to use it in the middle of the day. If it's for neuropathy, you've got to give it time. But I don't set any false expectations with these people. I tell them flat out. And I used to teach 4th grade, so I have that authoritative stare them down way to it. But they understand, and they don't go home and call me the next day and say, oh, my CBD didn't work, because they know they have to give it at least 30 days, and they know these things take time. So when people come in, and the thing I hate to hear is, I just flushed all my prescriptions down the toilet an hour before this appointment, because you're going to get me off of it. Oh my gosh, And so I say to people, sure you want to use cannabis to reduce opiate use. Give it a month, 2 months, 3 months. In 3 months, we can honestly have a conversation where you're reduced greatly, 50% minimum. But, everything takes time. It took you time to get addicted to the opiate. It's going to take you time to get you off the opiate. People want an instant fix, and it's all this digital media, and I'm sorry, but we got to go back to the wagon train right now, because you've been on this for a long time.
Cannabis is not Fast and Furious. Do you want to weigh in on this, Nancy?
I'll make a corollary to this. So we don't have any topicals, but we do have a family of extended release capsules. To my knowledge, the only extended release capsules on the market. But it is a very similar thing to what Jane is talking about, that we have to do a lot of training with people to understand that things need to build up in your system. So for any extended release product, not just for cannabis. So I think setting expectations is the key to having people have successful experiences with these types of products.
I bet you run into this a lot, Trista.
I run into this a lot. So, you know, everybody's different. So for some people, they apply the oil and rub it in and it works immediately for neuropathy, for instance. I want to get your patients to stop. That said, we have other patients who have let us know that it took 3 days for them to get lasting results. And what the analogy I like to use, it's not really an analogy, is that your body's endocannabinoid system needs to be boosted. Most people are deficient, right? So when you're applying a topical product to treat, you know, pain or inflammation, what you're doing is you're boosting your body's ability to take care of it itself in that spot over and over and over again. And so applying it, you know, 5 to 7 times a day in the beginning will allow someone to only have to use it once or twice a day or every other day, you know, 2 weeks later. So
I want to double down on that, Trista. So when you were designing your packaging, how did you weigh how to, you know, explain the usage of it? Because you want to get them enough compliance that it helps, but you also don't want to say that this bottle's will be gone in a week. You know?
Right.
So how did you weigh that out for yourself, for the package designers in the room?
Well, that's a great question. So I recommend, we've got taglines that are put it where it hurts, rub it in, repeat, right? It's just really simple instructions and taglines. That said, if you read the directions on my package, it says to apply it sparingly often.
Sparingly often.
Yeah.
So this next question, we're going to start with, looks like we're back to you, Trista, and then we'll come this way. So I know this is kind of a general question, but I wanted more to elicit conversation. So for generations, infused products were made from trim, which, you know, until recently was known as trash, right? And now we find, there's good things we can do with it. But today now, infused product designers have an array of materials that they can choose from. They can go from trim to whole flower to purchasing extracted oils. As a product designer, you've got a lot of options. So what advice would you offer a product designer in the room, considering what material to use for their infused product?
Well, the first piece of advice I have is to know your source. So even if you're buying extracted oil, go to the farm that it was grown at. Check out, see what their growing practices are, see how they care for their plants, see what kind of chemicals they use on their plants. Try and go organic if you can. I mean, that's really where it's at, right? So know your producer. That's the best advice I can give.
This is actually a very interesting question. So we've been in business in Colorado since 2010, and back in the day, there was no extracted oil that you could buy. And I always liken it to like if you were Ford Motor Company and you said, I want to build cars, and somebody said, fantastic, first you need to learn how to make steel, right? But now we have choices. So one of the answers to the question depends on what it is that you're trying to do. So Trista was talking before about isolates, which are the purest form that you can get. The other big trend in the industry right now is distillates, which is usually you start out with an extracted oil, as a CO2 extracted oil is the most general one, and then you do a secondary technique, which is called slow path distillation. There's actually a variety of ways to do distillation. And what it does is it strips out the waxes and the chlorophyll. It also strips out the terpenes. Okay, and the terpenes, in addition to adding smell to the product, also have medicinal benefits, and they're also the determinants of whether an indica feels like an indica or a sativa feels like a sativa. So if what you're trying to make is a class-specific edible that has some of the properties of an indica versus a sativa, and that's a whole debate that we can talk about there too. But you wouldn't want to use an extracted oil that had gone through the distillate process. You'd either want to extract it yourself, or you'd want to buy what we in Colorado call a kitchen oil. So there's that variable on it, what you're trying to do with it. The other issue is just what are your capabilities as a company? To do your own extraction requires equipment, it requires a skill set, and it requires more time. So, you know, we do both. We buy extracted oil, we buy distillate, and we also have CO2 extractors, and for years we had butane extractors, which we've just taken down. You know, one of the things that happens is after you do the first level of extraction with the trim, whether you're using CO2 or whether you're using a solvent of some sort, there's a whole secondary process that has to happen where you're winterizing it and you're removing the waxes. And it adds a lot of time to the process. So if you're a very high volume company like we are, there's a big advantage to using an extracted oil and using a distillate if you don't need some of the properties that the terpenes add, because it speeds things up tremendously. So it's not the most simple, straightforward answer. The real answer is it depends. If you are trying to get what we call the entourage effect or get the benefits of everything in the plant, then you probably want to do your own extraction so you can control that.
So I've been in the industry since I started here in Arizona, and you know, 6 years ago, anyone making an edible was using trim. Today, I don't know anyone using trim. So put that right out of your head if you're thinking you're gonna make your edibles with trim. It's just not gonna work.
Is there a reason why that you're aware of?
Well, number one, you know, it's quality in, quality out. You know, and when the last time I looked at like a pound of trim that was going out to an edible place, it was not a pretty sight. You know, so it's not something that people that are successful in making edibles use.
That is not the case in Colorado. I just have to give a different perspective. Most edibles companies in Colorado still make their edibles from trim, and they extract it themselves. Really, the extracted oil industry is just starting to really take hold in Colorado and to have enough options that larger companies are looking at it. But we get absolutely beautiful trim with levels of THC and CBD that rival, you know, the whole plant. And you know, you get more out of the whole plant, but you also pay 4 to 5 times as much for it. So from an economics point of view, I would say if you're not in a state that has a robust extracted oil option for you, don't shy away from trim. It's a great way to make edibles. I'm sorry, I have to disagree with Jay.
And that is to Trista's point, right?
Yeah.
To know your source, because even within any particular state, you're going to have people who are producing high quality trim, and some of it which is more like the word trash, right? And
Right.
So know your source, and go visit the facility and see how it could be degraded along the way.
Can I just say one more quick thing on that? One of the things that we do with trim, and I highly encourage anybody who's using trim to do this, is we track and measure every possible metric there is on trim. We measure the potency, we measure the smell, the color, the final yield after it's been winterized. Everything is measured down to the strain levels. So when we're negotiating prices on trim, we do it from a base of a lot of knowledge about what we're buying.
I wanted to clarify a couple of things because I've heard both of you speak, and I think that you're talking about, Jane, you're talking about not using trim directly to make the product.
Yeah.
And you're talking about buying trim and turning it into an extract.
Right.
How do you make trim to make a product? How would you use trim to make a product?
So, like, you can do an oil infusion or something.
Like into coconut oil.
Like, in other words, I think what was trying to be said was that don't use trim just straight up making a product. You're not going to get a consistent product.
That would taste horrible.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what. Yeah. The other thing is to know that. So people can use pesticides on flower or on their plants and have their flower pass the pesticide test, but the trim won't pass. So be really careful about that too. You know, in Oregon, we have the strictest testing regulations in the nation, and it's really important that we have clean material to start with.
So Nancy, let's start with you on this last question. So what considerations should infused product designers think about when it comes to shelf life?
That's a great one. So when we first started out, we had in our lineup a variety of baked goods. And over time, we completely phased them out because we found that our sweet spot was really things that had long shelf life. The only way that we could figure out how to make a brownie last for more than 2 weeks was to put things like mold inhibitor in it, which we didn't want to do. Now, that said, I have good friends in the industry who do make baked goods, and they have figured out somehow how to extend the shelf life. We never did. So we dealt with it by just avoiding the whole thing. So we just, it's one of our core criteria for selecting new products is that it has a shelf life of at least 6 months, and we also do shelf life testing. We actually, when we're making products, we actually have this little thing that we put it in, and it kind of simulates different durations on the shelf. So it's a really, really important consideration. In a state like ours, which is a fairly good-sized state, for us to get out to the western slope, which is, you know, we're in Boulder, so that's a good 5 to 6 hour drive. We're only sending our couriers or outside couriers out there once a week. So, you know, if you have a product that begins to get stale in 2 weeks, you're going to end up having customers in that situation who are not very happy with it.
So we have a small space in the dispensary. It's under 2,000 square feet. So when we order edibles, and I'm not talking about just the products we carry, but the products from all other kitchens, it's only a week order, and we turn over those edibles every week. And it's kind of amazing to me how savvy the patients are, because I had a patient the other day in the lobby, and she said, yeah, I've got this whole list of edibles I want, and your dispensary carries the freshest baked edibles of anyone around, because we don't have the room to keep it on hand. So it's worked in our favor that we turn it over that quickly, and you know, I don't want to stale brownie.
Yeah, that's actually a really good insight for retailers, right? Because if your distributor is willing to deliver to you more often, not only does it mean that you've got fresher product, but also your revenue stream is going to be more balanced because you're not putting out larger sums of money every few weeks. It's a consistent amount. That's really insightful. Tristan, you want to get on this?
So for topicals, it's a little bit different. Again, our oils have a 2-year shelf life at least, which I think is really important. I'm currently working on a lotion, and to not put nasty ingredients in a lotion and have it have a great shelf life is actually pretty challenging. So I think I found what we need in order to do it naturally with plant-derived preservatives, but we'll let you know.
Right on. So we've got time for a couple of questions. Do we have one? Yes, ma'am.
So,
Would you stand up and speak up?
So it sounds like education is a really big part of the bud tender's job, and especially selling your products. What do you guys recommend as education for the bud tenders, and how do you go about doing that? Or what is the best way to make sure that the bud tenders are selling your products in the proper way so that people are using them correctly?
I can comment on that. We're actually in the process of building out a much more in-depth training program, and we go into the dispensaries and do bud tender training in the dispensaries. And we're actually partnering with medical professionals, because I don't have that expertise in my own company, to really help them understand not just the basics of, start low and go slow, but really helping them understand how edibles are metabolized in the body, and getting a little bit deeper into that. Now, in Colorado, we have some very large in the cannabis world, 15, 17 store chains. And they do have a lot more training material themselves. But the average smaller dispensary chains or the one-off ones, in general, I think it's the responsibility of the manufacturers to be bringing that information to them and helping them do the very best they can do for their customers.
I agree. Also, I want to add to that, we also do bud tender training, both in the dispensaries, but we're also starting a program where we're bringing them into our facility and doing teaching classes there, PowerPoint, etc.
So we have a wholesale team that goes out and they do little booths and they do giveaways and they educate the bud tenders at the facilities, they educate the patients when they're there, try to make it a fun thing, there's music involved, it's just a good time.
Another question? Yes, sir.
You mentioned a lot THC and CBD in your presentations, and just generally the main two cannabinoids that I talked about a lot, and there's more awareness of terpenes now. Is there currently a market for it? Do you foresee there being a market for edibles and infused products with other cannabinoids as isolates or as an entire spectrum?
Absolutely.
Could you repeat the question too, Tristan?
Yeah. But basically what he asked is there a market for other cannabinoids and specifically other cannabinoid infused products? And absolutely is the answer to that. If I could find bulk CBC and CBG, that would be going into my product as well.
So one of the things that's happening in the extraction world is that people's ability to extract is getting more precise and more targeted. And so they are beginning to be able to consistently pull off the other cannabinoids, at least some of them. There's like 103 of them. But CBG and CBN being, the two that Trista just mentioned. And I think where the future of the industry is going, and edibles included, is to really leverage that ability to extract precisely and then to stack things at different ratios to address different medical concerns and to create specific experiences. Now that said, I think we're quite a ways away from being able to do that effectively because we don't really have a lot of experience or database of doing that yet. But that's where it's going.
And if you look at Mary's medicinal products, you see they started out with THC and CBD, now they have CBN patches, they have THCA patches. The industry is moving as, you can come up with all these products that would do wonderful things, but until you educate the public and until you educate your bartenders to talk about them, they're going to sit there. So you have to be careful that you don't come out too early with that niche product without the education and the research to back it. So, a lot of people with a lot of good intentions are way ahead of their time at this point.
And if you're going to design a product that is using a minor cannabinoid, make sure you know that your supplier is going to stay in business too.
Right.
Because I saw that happen in Oregon. A company came out with a really great CBN tab that helped you go to sleep, and they started selling the heck out of them, and then their supplier went under, and no one else was isolating CBN. So that was that. We have got time for one more question. Yes, sir.
What makes your product medical?
He asked what makes your product medical.
What makes that product? What makes you to be able to use the word medical? What backs your foundation that this is a medical product?
It's really a regulatory distinction as opposed to a distinction of the product itself. We have, in Colorado, we have medical, we have adult use. We have the same products in both markets. There's not anything that makes a medical product medical from a formulation point of view. It's just the channel through which it's sold.
No, she's right.
Cool. We have time for one more question then. Yes, all the way in the back.
I'm piggybacking on his question, the ability to formulate, isolate and formulate products that have different cannabinoids. Are you concerned, I guess, about the future of the edibles and infused product market as opposed to a more pharmaceutical type product like capsules and extended release caps. When I go to a bakery to get my cookie and get a capsule or some other product that has the stacked cannabinoids and terpenes that I want, and why keep them in an infused consumer good type of vehicle.
I mean, topically you can't.
And so I'm speaking more
So,
edibles.
So I'll take the first leg of this question. When I first started out in the industry and people started making comments about, oh, they wanted this in a capsule, my gut reaction was the typical grassroots hippie, you know, we're trying to get away from the pills, why would somebody want to take a cannabis pill? But, you know, as time progresses, you see the advantages. I think it's always going to be a matter of choice. I think both methods of obtaining your medicine are going to be here to stay. I see a lot of people bringing capsules into the dispensaries, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, people need choices. So, there's a certain percentage of people that just will never take a cannabis capsule, in my opinion.
not to mention the health benefits of dark chocolate.
Nancy, you want to weigh in on this?
You know, I guess the other thing that I would say about that is I agree with the choice thing. The other thing is that different people's bodies metabolize things differently. And there's different levels of bioavailability depending on how people create their capsules and how they create their edibles. And different people just find that different things work well for them. So that element of choice is even just beyond the do I want to treat or do I want to take a capsule, it really is how it impacts the body.
Great, fantastic. So before we finish, I want to make sure I plug again the Dope Magazine party this evening at 6 o'clock on the roof of the Clarendon Hotel rooftop. And other than that, also the next panel will include pro football athlete Martin Washington, which should be fantastic. And so let us thank Trista Okel, Nancy Whiteman, and Jim.